Hello and welcome. We are joining you today from the land of the Ngunnawal people, the traditional owners of the Canberra region. The Academy acknowledges and pays respect to the traditional owners and their elders past and present of all lands on which we operate, live and work. They hold the memories, traditions, cultures and hopes of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people of Australia. Thank you for joining us. I'm Professor Hans Bachor, Fellow and Secretary of Education and Public Awareness at the Australian Academy of Science. And I'm joined by Academy Chief Executive Anna Maria Arabia.
Thank you, Hans. Today we're here to celebrate the recipients of the 2021 Prime Minister's Prizes for Science, and in particular, the teachers recognised in the awards this year. Traditionally, we would have been in the Shine Dome together the day after the prizes were awarded. But today, we're here in the Shine Dome foyer, this magnificent building, with our guests joining us from across Australia online, and audience members watching from all over the world. We would like to acknowledge the ongoing support of the Department of Industry, Science, Energy and Resources, who manage the prizes each year, and support the Academy to deliver this event.
Earlier this month, the recipients of the 2021 Prime Minister's Prize for Science were announced. We offer our congratulations to Associate Professor Michael Bowen from the University of Sydney, Professor Sherene from the Peter McCallum Cancer Centre, Dr. Keith Bannister from CSIRO, Professor Anthony Weiss from the University of Sydney, and Academy Fellow Professor Edward Holmes from the University of Sydney.
The Australian Academy of Science offers our sincerest congratulations to all of the recipients. The Academy has a long and proud history of developing and delivering science and mathematics education programs and resources for teachers and students. At the heart of our programs, which are Primary Connections, Science by Doing, and Resolve Maths by Inquiry, is professional learning for teachers. Our evidence-based approach has shown us time and time again that when teachers can teach science and mathematics with confidence, resources and insight, they inspire students and help every child retain the innate curiosity they were born with. That is why we are so thrilled to be able to shine a light on the 2021 Prime Minister's Science Prize recipients for teaching and the highly commended teachers. This year, in particular, we would like to applaud the teachers of our nation for their resilience and dedication to our students, our future. The pandemic changed the teaching and learning environment in ways we could never have imagined. Parents and carers across the country gained a unique insight into the classroom, albeit virtual, and saw firsthand the extraordinary work of our skilled teachers who guided students wherever they may have been on their learning journey, ensuring access and equity to the most important and life-changing asset any individual may ever have, an education. We salute you, we are indebted, and we're so thrilled that today we can recognise and celebrate you and your profession. So, we have some messages for you, for the Prime Minister's Science Prize winners for teaching and the teachers across Australia. And these messages come from the recipients of the other prizes this year. Let's kick off with Fellow of the Australian Academy of Science, Professor Eddie Holmes, winner of the 2021.
Hi, I'm Eddie Holmes. COVID-19 and climate change have brought science into every Australian household. There's never been a more important time to be a scientist and never been a more important time to get our kids interested in STEM. For teachers, the key thing is we teach our kids to be curious, because it's curiosity that underpins every scientist. When I was at school, one of my teachers told me to question everything. It's that ability to question things, how things work, that's made me a scientist. STEM will be the key for Australia's future and also for the future for the whole planet. Thank you.
I'm Professor Tony Weiss, the McCallum Chair in Biochemistry at the University of Sydney and the recipient of this year's Prime Minister's Prize for Innovation. You know, STEM education has been incredibly important to me. I've had inspirational teachers at both primary school and high school, and they've really guided me through to another collection of amazing teachers at university level as well. And without these foundational teachers, I would never have really gone to the heights that I've gone to. I really encourage you to try and celebrate not only the importance of STEM education, but to realise how much STEM education can transform the world, not only through your discoveries, your inventions, but simply through the process of using your education to try and make the world a better place.
Hi everyone, my name is Sherene and I'm speaking to you from the Peter McCallum Cancer Centre in Melbourne, Australia. It's my great pleasure to be have been awarded the 2021 Frank Fenner Life Scientist of the Year. I'm sorry I can't be there for breakfast this morning. I've been asked to say a brief word on STEM and education and gender representation. And I think my takeaway messages from my own experience is that it's really important for teachers to promote science or STEM for both young girls and young boys, because often there's a bit of a gender bias in young children, primary school children, and turning girls away from maths and science at an early age. And also, ultimately, we need to get more representation at senior levels and on television in STEM and medicine, as that, of course, is extremely powerful for little girls when they see role models in the media and on television and in newspapers, as you can't be what you can't see. So thank you very much again for this honour and have a good event.
Hi, my name is Keith. I'm an astronomer at the CSIRO, Australia's National Science Agency. I'd like to thank the Academy of Science for hosting this event. I truly believe that the STEM disciplines are key to solving some of the biggest problems we face on this planet and answering some of the deepest questions we have about the universe in which we live. A thriving STEM industry will change the future, but it needs great people. Excellent primary school and high school teachers and even preschool teachers are the first step to inspiring young people into taking up careers in STEM. The most masterful scientists, engineers and mathematicians have one thing in common: curiosity, and that's something that kids have in droves. I was very lucky to have a science teacher and a maths teacher I can think of who had a gift for guiding my voracious curiosity in those fields, and I should thank Mr. Wallner and Mr. Cortizes for their inspiration. I still remember staying back after class during lunch to have our mind blown by quantum physics, and that was not in the course, it was just something we wanted to know more about. I have 3 kids myself, and I've witnessed firsthand how a gifted maths teacher has inspired my son from being a back-of-the-class dreamer into 2 years ahead of his level The power of good educators to change the future is simply enormous. So thanks to the Academy for supporting STEM education. It's no doubt hard work, but it's so important. Thank you.
It's an honour to be the recipient of the Prize for New Innovators in the 2021 Prime Minister's Prizes for Science. Thank you to the Australian Academy of Science for holding this event to celebrate the prizes and STEM education across Australia. A huge congratulations to all of this year's recipients. I'd like to take this opportunity to express my deepest gratitude to all of my teachers and mentors who laid the foundation that has allowed me to get to where I am today, and who continue to be a source of inspiration and guidance along my journey. To all STEM educators in Australia, you inspire and equip our best and brightest to take up careers in STEM, and in so doing, you help to shape our nation and the world for the better. Thank you.
To the recipients of the prizes in 2021. We're delighted today to be celebrating excellence in STEM teaching, and joining us today are the two recipients of the prizes, as well as 3 highly commended teachers. Let's meet them. Firstly, congratulations to Scott Graham from Barker College in Sydney for being awarded the Prime Minister's Prize for Excellence in Science Teaching in Secondary Schools. Scott has been recognized for his work in revolutionizing agricultural education through a passion for agricultural science and technology. He engages students at all levels to ensure they achieve their best for understanding the opportunities a university education in agriculture produces. Operating in an environment where the senior high school level has suffered from significant generational decline in enrollments in agriculture and in education, therefore, Scott's achievements in teaching have amplified the recognition of agriculture as an academic subject nationally. Scott's ambition to reconnect urban students and their parents with opportunities in agriculture, linking the students personally to the importance of food globally, and emphasizing that agriculture represents the opportunity to make a popular difference in the society. Now, Scott, join us live. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
We now actually have a special guest to say a few words about Scott, a former Barker student, Isabella Lee, who is now studying agriculture science at the University of Sydney. Isabella, tell us a bit about your time studying at Barker College with Graham.
So I first met Scott at Year 10 orientation night in 2016, and I was fortunate enough to have him as my agriculture teacher in year 11 and 12. Prior to this, as an urban student who had grown up on the North Shore, I had no interest or knowledge about agriculture at all, and I know for myself as well as many other students, our decision to pursue agriculture for the HSC was largely due to Scott. His enthusiasm and welcoming personality as a unit coordinator has shaped agriculture at Barker College as an enjoyable and rewarding subject and led to significant growth of the cohort. Scott allowed me to understand the importance of agriculture holistically and ultimately inspired me to further my knowledge and passion by studying agriculture at the University of Sydney, where I just completed my 3rd year and have the hope to have a future career in the industry. Scott devotes endless hours of his life and is an incredible role model who goes out of his way to teach future generations about the significance of agriculture and the infinite opportunities in the industry after school. It is a privilege to know such a dedicated, intelligent person who has had a major influence on my life and in my eyes is a very deserving winner of this award.
Thank you, Isabella. Scott, you must be very proud seeing your students, like Isabella, continuing their studies and your own passion for agriculture.
Absolutely, it's such an honour. As teachers, we want students to work out what they're good at, and we want them to hopefully develop a passion in something. And so being part of that and being able to have an impact on someone's life in that way is incredible. And so, yeah, it's awesome to see Isabella and others taking such a path. And yeah, it's a privilege to be part of their lives.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you, Isabella. Now awarded the Prime Minister's Prize for Excellence in Science Teaching in Primary Schools is Megan Hayes from Mudgeeraba Creek State School in Queensland. Megan has been recognised for being a highly skilled and experienced educator who has significantly raised the profile of STEM education beyond the boundaries of the school. To maximise student learning and engagement, she works with high-profile scientists to expand on current curriculum content. Megan aims to extend young children's natural curiosity and understanding of atoms, molecules, and the periodic table, all of which form the basis for much of the content taught in primary sciences. As a result of this ongoing collaboration, students in her Year 2 classes were able to model, create scientific diagrams and confidently explain concepts using terminology usually reserved for high school students. Now Megan joins us live. Welcome, Megan.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
We have a very special message from one of Megan's students, Finn Decker. Finn is in Year 5 and is a keen budding scientist and engineer with a consistent record of awards at the school, regional and from STAQ science competitions, as well as being recognised at a national level in the BHP Science Awards.
Our school has been teachers who always challenge
No sound. We've got a slight technical hitch. We'll get some audio from Finn, so bear with us. I, for one, am looking forward to hearing Finn's message, and I'm sure Megan is too.
Good, so let's proceed or wait for Finn.
We'll wait a moment more.
Where's your next one?
Bear with us, we're trying to get Finn's message to Megan and to the world.
Tom?
I suspect with his engineering skills he could probably sort out the technical difficulties if he were here with us today, Hans.
Let's get him in, yes.
All right, we won't be long. Hans, I'm going to ask you a question. How long have you been the Secretary for Education and Public Awareness at the Academy?
3.5 years now.
3.5 years. And tell me what's been one of the more enjoyable parts of that role?
Oh, that's a terribly hard question because I enjoy most of it.
We'll come back to this. We're going to keep on going with the script. We're going to come back to him.
Now, I think going out to the public and seeing the response that we get is most enjoyable. I must say live events are even better, but no, we're doing very well and we get such a terrific feedback.
Thank you, Hans. We're going to come back to Finn. So Megan, I'll come back to you as well. So next, Hans, over to you to introduce Deborah.
Thank you. So we're also joined by Deborah Yates from Asheville Secondary College in Western Australia. She is highly commended in the Prime Minister's Prize of Excellence in Science Teaching in Secondary School category. Debbie was nominated for skilled teaching, which fosters students' engagement and inspires them to go into STEM education and career pathways. She plays an integral role in supporting others in education and the broader community through local collaboration initiatives. Debbie's teaching is particularly inclusive adaptable and progressive in its applications. Debbie just joins us now live. Welcome, Debbie.
Thank you. Very excited to be here.
We're also joined today by another teacher and highly commended in the Prime Minister's Prizes for Excellence in Science Teaching in secondary schools. Dr. Kirsten Hogg from the Queensland Academy for Science, Mathematics and Technology. Kirsten was nominated for bringing her exceptional knowledge of physics and combining it with an inclusive, infectious attitude to teaching. She engages her students through lessons, clubs, astronomy, nights, research projects and physics toys. And Kirsten strives to make complex academics of science relevant to the students of the 21st century. Kirsten joins us live. Welcome, Kirsten. It's wonderful that you could be with us. I feel like being in your classroom.
And finally, from Abbotsleigh Private Girls' School in Sydney, we are joined by Jacqueline McCarthy, highly recommended in the Prime Minister's Prize for Excellence in Science Teaching primary schools. Jacqueline was nominated for her work with class teachers to innovate and implement science lessons that are authentic and promote critical thinking. She is acknowledged for developing primary branch of the Science Teachers Association of New South Wales to promote confidence in the field of science education. Jacqueline volunteers to support the teachers at the local public school to develop programs and resources to encourage teachers in the delivery, content and skills. She also lectures at universities and conferences to both training and practicing teachers, including on Away from Base, Indigenous programs. Welcome, Jacqueline.
Thank you so much, Hans. It's lovely to be here.
Thank you all for joining us, and congratulations again on your recognition in this year's Prime Minister's Prizes. We are delighted to have you all here today and ask you some questions. We invite the audience to send in questions for the panel of teachers via the website or QR code on your screen. To get things started, I'm going to ask a question of Scott. Scott, what's been your experience of being recognised in the 2021 Prime Minister's Prize for Science? And what do you hope may be an outcome for you because of this recognition?
It's an incredible honour and a very unexpected one as well. I think, I would say I'm doing my job and doing something that I absolutely love doing. And so to be recognised in such a way is an incredible honour. I think it's encouraging that what you're doing is, something that's important and something of national importance in being recognised in the Prime Minister's Prizes. And in that, I'd like to think that agriculture, the image of agriculture as a science and as a STEM subject is kind of improved through this recognition.
Fantastic. Over to you, Hans.
Hello, Megan. Let me please ask you a question. What has been your experience in teaching during the COVID-19 pandemic? And in your experience, are there concepts or topics or skills from the pandemic which we can draw on in our teaching?
I think everyone's been affected in different ways by the pandemic, but I think for people that I'm involved with, they've become more confident and able to change their course of action very quickly and become very good at engaging with the digital world. It's built a lot of resilience in our children in terms of how they think about their own work, and it's also, for me, given me the opportunity to take science out into their families, and I think I had so much fun with the families creating STEM challenges that they were able to do while they were at home using everyday materials. And I think the best part of my week was getting the feedback from the students and them sharing what they had done and what they had learned. And I think everybody in teaching has found one positive, at least, that's come out of it, and that's the important part of it. It's lovely to see the children face to face and have that feedback, but they have built their skills, and we've certainly built our skills. I know here at Mudgee Creek, the teachers are amazing at using online platforms now.
Thank you, Megan. I've just got message that Finn is back with us, so I'm really keen to hear from Finn. So here's Finn. This one's for you, Megan.
Our school has been lucky enough to have teachers who always challenge us and motivate us. Being part of Miss Hayes' classes allows me to apply my knowledge and understanding to challenges related to the real world. I love coming to work with Miss Hayes. She has shown me that failing is a great opportunity to apply our problem-solving skills. Everyone at Mudgee Creek knows that fail just means first attempt in learning. Working with my friends to create and test our designs is the best part of my day. Miss Hayes never ceases to challenge us to be the scientists and engineers of tomorrow.
Fantastic. Great to hear from Finn.
Yes, it's great. Megan, you're back there. So just quickly looking into the future, are there particular lessons you learned or your students learned that you like to continue after the pandemic in the future years?
I think the biggest lesson that we learned is to find different ways to connect with our students. Every child learns differently, and into the future I'm going to continue finding those engaging ways to find their passion, to help my children find their passion, whatever area of science or STEM that may be, and inspire them to then go on to hopefully do something like our high school students have done onto university.
Great, thank you very much for this, and I think many people might consider that. Now let's switch over to Jacqueline. How did you approach the task of changing the teaching and learning situation to emergency remote teaching?
Just like Megan, we approached it in looking at just ways of reinventing our tasks to use tools and facilities that children had at home. We assumed they had nothing, so we always had a pre-recorded video of myself doing an experiment, but we also reinvented it so if they could do it at home. For instance, we did an erosion experiment using the equipment that you would expect in an average backyard. We did other things like using mixtures, and we had to, of course, come up with pancakes, didn't we? Because the best mixture is one that you can eat, which the children loved. And I got many photos from parents eating pancakes, which was a joy to see that the parents were more involved than they probably normally are in their children's learning.
How wonderful.
Great. Now, Jacqueline, what do you hope will be remembered from this time of COVID, the lockdowns and the remote learning?
I hope that children remember that science is everywhere. Science is not a 1.5 hour session once a week in the primary school years, in New South Wales at least. It is actually everywhere. That curiosity that they used, the amazing photos I received from them as they walked around and they saw, we'd been talking about erosion, and they looked at the erosion that was on the side of their road or of a tree. And I want them to continue to realise that science actually is everywhere, and it's something that they can engage in their everyday lives.
It certainly is. Thank you ever so much, Jacqueline, for all you have been doing and continue to do. And now a question for you, Debbie. In your view, how does the school environment affect the teaching and learning that happens there, and who and what is involved in making it work well?
Obviously teachers are a big part of the school environment. So without even having, a premises, I think all those teachers that have been doing remote learning have shown that, that's the key part. But having an environment that is supportive, showing students that, to invest in resources, rooms, creating a space for innovation, a space for creativity. That's also extremely important to, what we talked about before with that curiosity that students have, to make sure that that is supported. And the people involved, I think it's really important to have engagement and buy-in from all levels of school. I'm lucky enough here to have a really supportive, engaging executive who supports some of the creative, innovative, maybe slightly cuckoo ideas that we sometimes come up with here. And we're also extremely lucky to be part of a strong cluster of schools. We work very closely with our 4 primary schools here too. And I think having our teachers and our leadership from the primary schools involved with us at a secondary level means that we're working with these students from a young age, and they're very comfortable, and they're, involved in STEM education right from the early years. And that's key to having those successful outcomes and leading forward to, students pursuing those STEM careers at a university like we have here. And obviously, Scott's managed to do that with engaging his students in agriculture. So, I think that's the main things to consider.
Thanks ever so much, Debbie. Here at the Academy of Science, we often speak about the importance of leadership in school and principals, and to all of the principals of the schools, which you are part of, we extend our thanks. We know you play a great part in that, and it's so important. Thank you ever so much for highlighting that, Deb. Hans, over to you.
Yeah, and thank you, Debbie, for such a positive, optimistic outlook. I think we all need that, and only good things can come from there. So now a question for Kirsten. What role do you see for professional learning and support? How does it play a role for you and your colleagues?
Hi. I think continual professional learning and support as a teacher is integral, because the only thing that's constant is change. And I think everybody who's taught for the past 2 years can see clearly how much we've had to change and adapt. In some cases, professional development and professional support in the last 2 years have been difficult because we can't have people visit our schools and schools have been closed. But I think we've turned to each other and we've turned to our networks. We've got great physics teacher and science teacher networks within Queensland and also around Australia, and I'm part of several international science teaching networks as well. And we've shared resources, we've made videos for each other, we've shared equipment and ideas, and I think it will continue into the future to be really, really important. It's really great to have the support of the Academy and universities for the high level sort of technical, professional, academic learnings that inform us and help us teach new curriculums, and I really appreciate that ongoing. But yeah, I think professional learning is key and a necessary component for all teachers.
Thank you, Kirsten. Yes, and certainly we see that as one of our priorities here at the Academy, to continue that. Now, teaching is embedded in the wider society. Kirsten, what do you wish people outside the school environment knew about teaching and learning in this, quite complicated year, 2021? And why should they know about it?
I guess what I'd like them to know is that a lot of teachers have had to hold multiple scenarios in their heads simultaneously this year. So it's kind of like a constant 20 things in your mind at once year, and having to quickly transition from one to the other, if there's a lockdown or if there's a change in the way that you can teach your class, or if you have to wear masks, or various, permutations of all of those things. I guess I'd like people outside of teaching to know how much preparation and extra thought it took to shift everything online. It wasn't just like one day you're in the classroom and the next day you're on the computer. It doesn't work that way, because a lot of things you do in real life really do not translate to online, and especially experimental work. I don't know how about everyone else felt with. We've already heard a lot of stories from Megan and Jackie about making do at home, doing stuff in the kitchen. I did a lot of kitchen chemistry myself and videoed a lot of stuff over last year. So I guess I'd like people to think that And also I think people to remember that we really missed having the students. Like, that was the worst thing. It was actually having to do those really long months without the students with us, because that's what makes you really want to be a teacher. So that's what I'd like people to know.
Thank you, Kirsten. As one of those parents who was assisting my 7-year-old at home, thank you from the bottom of my heart. It was very clear to me that it didn't happen automatically, and I really did feel for teachers, because whenever I had an opportunity to speak with them, and whenever I uttered the words, "It's hard for the children," they reminded me how difficult it was for teachers too. That engagement is not just important, but I know something that drives you to teaching and is an important part of your day and year and your profession. So thank you to all of you for that. I'm going to remind our online audience, if you'd like to ask some questions, please do so via the website. Until then, I am going to turn to Jacqueline. Jacqueline, often when we interview scientists or mathematicians or STEM professionals, they often recall a teacher who had a significant influence on them during their school years and what they went on to do later in life. We heard those very messages from the other recipients of the Prime Minister's Prizes for Science, and I personally remember my science teachers very well. So Jacqueline, are you conscious of the influence that you have when engaging with students?
Yes, of course. I still also remember my teachers and those that took the time to answer my myriad of questions. As Professor Lau has already said, you can't be what you can't see. So I try to lead my students to question ask and ask why. We talk about the power of because, and I try to inspire my students to ask those questions, ask those why, and consider the power of such and such happening because. And I think that if we can be enthusiastic to science and with science, I think that our students can take that home as well. So I think it's important for us to be good role models to our students.
Fantastic, thank you. And Debbie, what do you think it is about these relationships that makes them so influential?
I think it's the fact that if you have a role model, if you have someone that if you see them, you can be them, like Jacqueline just said, but also the relationship that's developed between a teacher and a student over those years. You know, if a teacher can show that they care and a student develops respect for that teacher and they can see the teacher's passion and investment in the subject area, then they're going to follow along, they're going to develop that interest and pursue that themselves perhaps. You know, if you respect somebody, you think, oh, well, what they're interested in might be interesting for the rest of us too. And I think that's why it's key. And so many teachers are in the profession because they are passionate, they do care so much, and they do care so much about their content. So I think that's the key to it.
Thanks ever so much.
Yes, thank you. Now we can also look forward to new prizes in the future.
Okay.
So may I ask Megan and Scott, what advice would you offer to someone who is thinking of nominating another person for the 2022 Prime Minister's Prize for Science? Let's start with Megan.
I would encourage everyone to think about the people that you work with. As teachers, it's not often that you actually are acknowledged in any way. I have come across a myriad of hundreds of teachers in my teaching career, and being part of the STEMX Academy, got to go to Canberra and saw some amazing teachers and shared their knowledge. I have already reached out to some of those people because they need to share their knowledge and their passion. And as I found out very quickly that doing your job with passion has been rewarded in the most most amazing way, I have to say. As teachers, we tend not to see ourselves as award recipients. We see ourselves as people who are just doing a job. Please, anyone that you know, approach a principal, your leadership team, and discuss that person and make some leaders of the future.
Excellent advice.
That's a great call, Megan. Scott, what would you like to add to this?
I think there's two things I'd say. First of all, as I mentioned earlier, it really highlights and kind of encourages you of the importance of what you're doing. And I think that's incredibly encouraging and encourages you to keep on going in doing what you're doing. But also, I think the process is actually really easy. I think that's probably something that's daunting for people. It's like a two-step process where the initial application by the person who's nominating someone else is very brief and quite short. And then if it gets through to the next round, then there's a little bit more detail. So I think it's worth nominating someone. If you see someone or think of someone that's doing something that's worth recognising, I think absolutely nominate them for sure.
Thank you. Advice indeed. We have a question from our audience. How do you instill a passion for physics in your students, especially teenage girls? Who'd like to take that one?
Is that for me?
Yes, Kirsten, that one's for you. Sorry, I missed that box.
That's okay. So it is difficult because I think it was mentioned earlier, I'm sorry, I can't remember quite who mentioned it, but there is a tendency for girls to feel that they can't do mathematics and physics from quite early in their education. As early as early high schools, female students often feel that they are not good enough, they're not naturally inclined to do physics and maths. I have a number of strategies that I use. I have a bit of a philosophy that when I teach, everything is physics. So even if it's chemistry, it's actually just physics. It's just physics of electrons, and biology is physics as well. It's just energy flow in a natural system. So I just basically tell everybody everything's physics right from the beginning, and then it's not so intimidating. And then as they progress into more formalised physics classes, I do things like I'll have a girls-only prac group. So only the girls will work together with each other on experimental work, and that tends to minimise sort of the dominating influence that some boys have when they interact with experimental equipment, and the girls tend to be a bit more passive and stand back. So if I make a girls-only group, they tend to be actively involved, and then they realise that they can do it, and they're often really good at it, and then they're not intimidated by it themselves, intimidated by it anymore. The other thing I do is that I encourage female students to participate in sort of extracurricular research projects to build their confidence, because if they can succeed and get results and grow confidence in themselves, it really, really helps. And then in actual physics class, I just find that you just got to work out the right way to explain a concept to somebody. So all concepts can be quite difficult, and you've just got to find the right analogy, the example, the toy, the demonstration that works for that person. And if you think about it long enough, or you try enough different tricks, or you read enough journal articles, you'll work it out, and then everyone can understand everything.
That is absolutely fantastic answer, Kristen, and it's inspiring for many, not in the least Hans Buckle, who is a physicist, and I'm sure would be loving to hear that physics is everything. Kirsten, I have another one for you. What advice would you give to new graduates who are about to embark on their teaching career? How can they best inspire teachers like you do?
I see quite a lot of just about to graduate students, teaching students who are doing their final pracs, and I guess my advice to them is to maximise their specialty content knowledge as much as they can while they're still at university. So I had a student last year who was keen to start teaching, but she was throwing up whether or not to do honours in physics first or whether to start teaching straight away. And I said to her, go and do your honours degree now, because it's hard to go back and teaching will always be there. And I said, once you've got your honours, you'll have so much more confidence in your content, and you'll have all those insights into the interesting applications and research sort of avenues, which you'll be able to share with your students. And I think having really, really high level content knowledge as a foundation, and then the other thing, I guess, it's to meet a lot of teachers, and to, when you meet new teachers, experienced ones, talk to them, steal their resources, photocopy their notes, anything you can, because the first couple of years can be quite difficult, like tough even. So if you've got a few tricks up your sleeve from friendly teachers who you've met, it really makes a big difference.
That's fantastic. Thank you to our online audience members for those terrific questions. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for this afternoon. I'd like to sincerely thank and once again congratulate all the wonderful teachers who joined us today. Nominations for the 2022 Prime Minister's Prizes are now open, so you can now nominate teachers, leaders, employees, colleagues and peers in recognition of their outstanding achievements in science, innovation and teaching the next generation. Thank you once again to the Department of Industry, Science, Energy and Resources, and thank you to everyone who has joined us to celebrate science and science teaching today. I'm Anna Maria Arabia.
And I'm Hans Bachor.
Good afternoon.